Welcome to another episode of my podcast, That's Fine With Me. And this is the last episode of this year, 2024. I'm going to see you only in 2025. And today we're going to be talking about Christmas, the origins of Christmas, the history of Christmas. How did it come to the modern world and why are we celebrating the way we're celebrating? Let's dive into this podcast real quick. At first, before Jesus, before Christianity itself, Europeans, they celebrated light and rebirth. They were celebrating the darkest days that were over, and they called it winter solstice. So winter solstice is approximately December 21st, if I'm not mistaken, and it starts from, I guess, the middle of summer. The days are becoming shorter and the night is becoming longer. That's why on the 21st of December, if I'm mistaken, the days are becoming longer and the night is becoming shorter. That is the main reason why a lot of Europeans, they were celebrating the longer day, and that was a whole festival. They had the whole feast. Yeah, that was feast. And then let's talk a little bit about Scandinavia. For example, the Norse, they celebrated Yule. That was on December 21st. And what they did, they brought men of the family. They would go to a forest and bring huge logs. Then they would fire those logs, and then they would make sure that they burn at least 12 days. And during this time, they would feast, they would eat, they would have some celebration. Another really good reason why it was on the 21st of December, that around this time, December exactly, a lot of cattle were slaughtered, and peasants, they had a lot of food, and they could celebrate that they had the abundance in their house. And honestly, my mom had her own theory, and I guess she's still believing in this theory. My grandma, she's super religious, and every single time she would fast before Easter, and she would even fast every Wednesday and every Friday. She wouldn't eat some meat or milk or whatever. But later, my grandma, she went visiting like a doctor, and the doctor said that she cannot feast anymore because she is willingly cutting off any nutrition, healthy products from her system, from her body, and it's no good for an old person because she has to get some vitamins out of her food. That is the main reason why my grandma stopped. My mom, she doesn't really believe in fasting because most of the time she thinks that whenever people, and I mean like ancient people, they slaughtered their cattle, they had enough food for maybe 3 or 4 months, and the slaughter happened around December. And during fall, they harvest their crops. That's why they had enough food for maybe like 6 months. And right before Easter, in the beginning of spring, the food wasn't enough to survive. They would still eat a lot. That's why they invented fasting, and that was the main reason why people did not want to eat meat anymore, because they were probably most of the time out of meat, out of some product. That's why they were fasting and saving food. This is the theory of my mom, but I'm pretty much sure that this is probably the truth. Most of the time that was truth, because people, they were religious, but at the same time they needed to save food to live till the summer when they can crop, when they can harvest during fall, and here it is. So let's talk about celebration that happened in Rome, and this is really important because the name of the celebration was Saturnalia. So the Saturnalia is a holiday that was cherishing Saturn, the planet Saturn, but back then it was a god, Saturn, that is a god of agriculture. And of course, Rome wasn't facing a severe, like say, winter that Scandinavians had, but still, it wasn't a lot of food, I guess, during winter time, and they celebrated winter solstice as well. And during this period of time, they started celebrating right at the beginning of the week of a solstice, and then they would carry on till the new moon. It was approximately 1 month, and during this month, a lot of slaves, they were granted freedom, and they were treated as equal. A lot of business, a lot of schools, they were not working during this period of time because it was a huge festival, and they were literally celebrating. But I guess it's worth mentioning that upper class, they celebrated the birth of Mirtha. This is a god of unconquerable sun, and that was celebrated on December 25th. Later, when the early Christianity was established, I guess, the church, they were mainly celebrating Easter. That was the main holiday. No one really cared about the birth of Jesus, and that is the main reason why church wanted to implement a new celebration, and no one really knows when they came up with this idea, but the Pope, Julius the First, he chose December 25th as a birth of Jesus. Basically, there's no evidence Jesus was born on 25th of December. It's just some random Pope that picked this date, and the intention was pretty clear. He wanted to adapt this new celebration instead of pageant traditions. So he wanted to get rid of a pageant celebration that was called Saturnalia, and then he wanted to interchange it with the birth of Jesus. Unfortunately, church had a lot of power and they invented a new celebration, but they couldn't influence people how to celebrate this date. That is the main reason why it was so weird. Christmas was some sort of carnival or some festival where people were attending church in the morning and then they would get drunk and they would choose a beggar or maybe a student and they will call him a lord of misrule. Then they will make this person to go and knock the upper class homes and ask for food, nice quality food and drinks. And if the upper class, let's say house, would give them this food, it's good. It's some sort of like treat or treat. But if they decline the beggar to give him any sort of food, the mob was more than happy to tarnish their house and to create whatever they wanted for this celebration. I guess this day was the only day of the year when the lower class or middle class, they could get their frustration out on upper class, and was totally legal back then. So yeah, it was maybe like 4th century, 5th century, up until Middle Ages. Actually, this way of celebrating Christmas was up until Middle Ages, which is crazy. So in the 17th century, Oliver Cromwell and Puritans, they took over England, and in 1645, they actually canceled Christmas. They thought that it wasn't appropriate celebration, and that's why they canceled. Of course, people didn't really like that they couldn't spread those riots and they couldn't celebrate Christmas. That was the main reason why, by popular demand, the Charles II was restored to the throne and the popular holiday was back. But English separatists, they moved to America, and you know their names, those were pilgrims. And they believe in Orthodox with the Puritan beliefs, and that was the main reason why Christmas wasn't actually a celebration in early America. And we're talking about 1620s. It wasn't a celebration, and from 1659 to 1681, Boston, back then it was even Boston there, the celebration was outlawed and people were not allowed to celebrate. If they did, they would pay a fine, 5 shillings. Pretty much a lot. But some other settlements, they allowed Christmas to celebrate, but they tried to make it peaceful, more or less. And those cases were really often in the United States. So after Revolution, English customs as well, they prohibited Christmas, and it kind of like fell out of favor, and the holiday stopped being federal holiday up until 26 June 1870s. And only in the 19th century, Christmas has become something remotely close to something that we have now. Of course, a lot of upper class, they were tired of this riots during Christmas, and in 1828, New York Council, they instituted the first police force, and they tried to prevent those riots that happened during Christmas time. And they wanted to create something different. They wanted to focus on a little bit different approach how to celebrate this holiday, and it was more like family oriented and more kind celebration that it used to be, because of, I guess, some police force and upper class, because upper class was suffering the most. And around this time, Charles Dickens, he wrote the tale that all of you perfectly know, that's called A Christmas Carol. He wanted to drag the attention where you should probably be kind and you should pay attention to some charity, and that Victorian, I guess, America really loved this idea, and that's why they wanted to implement this even more. And they started with gifts to their kids and maybe with the charity program. And that is the main reason why Christmas has turned into something positive and something good and kind, something that we know now. And I guess in this case, immigrants, Catholics, and Episcopalians churches, they really helped to create this new image for not only church, but for people, that the celebration has to be very modest, it has to be humble for people, and that they need to be kind towards one another, and especially bring some gifts. But still, Christmas wasn't anything like we know right now back then in the 19th century. I mean, it took 100 years, like more 100 more years before it turned into something that we know now. And another really cool story to tell you guys, that another really important symbol of Christmas is Santa Claus. And it was brought by immigrants from Deutsch. They refer to Saint Nicholas, who was a very wealthy person, but he had become a monk and he gave up, let's say, his wealth, and he started traveling around the country. He was born in Turkey in 280 AD, and he was helping poor and sick people. That's why he was called Saint Nicholas. While they were kind of like praying to Saint Nicholas, talking about Deutsch, in the 18th century in New York, I guess it was late 18th century of New York, they called him Saint Nicholas or Sinterklaas. This is a short version, and Sinterklaas is I guess, Deutsch name for Santa Claus. The Americans, they transferred this into Santa Claus, and they started believing in a sane person who was helping people, but not only because of immigrants. Another really important person who was involved in 1822, the Clement Clarke Moore, he wrote a Christmas poem that was called An Account of a Visit from St. Nicholas. And he actually depicted Santa Claus in some red suit. He showed that he was coming from home to home on some slides with reindeers and with a huge pack of presents. And that's how people, let's say, started believing in Santa Claus. So basically, that was a monk who lived years and centuries before Santa Claus was invented. Finally, in 1881, Thomas Nast, he was a political cartoonist. He created this new image of an old man, a little bit bigger size, who was wearing red clothes and who was going from home to home in his cartoons. And that's how kids and people realized how Santa Claus, his image, was, let's say, invented. Basically, it is a story that was created by immigrants, church, the transition from pageants, traditions, and then all of it turned into Christmas, the one that we know right now. And funny to say, when people believe in the birth of Jesus on 25th of December, it is so interesting that the Pope Julius I actually came up with this date out of nowhere. He just wanted to get rid of a pageant celebration, and he created his own, just to make sure that they're not celebrating anything like Saturnalia, and they're celebrating the church holiday. That is so interesting. That's why we still have no idea when Jesus was born. This is a date that someone came up with, but I don't really know. It is so interesting. When you try to dig into some history and some interesting stories, you understand how few information you actually know about certain holiday celebrations and certain traditions that we have now in the modern world. Because honestly, I thought Christmas was super old celebration, the one that had been celebrated for centuries. And yeah, in a way, with drunk people and this Lord of Misrule. But no, it's not the same as we do have now. And by the way, from the period of time like early 19th century to, I guess, to 20th century, during this, years, 100 years, people started decorating the tree, like mistletoe, because of some immigrants that were coming and bringing these traditions in their country. And that is the main reason why America sort of rebranded, I guess, has made a rebranding of Christmas. And yeah, this is interesting how upper class was involved in this holiday. And another really cool question that I have for you guys: why do you think we believe in miracles right in December? Why do we believe that something is going to happen right before New Year? Something's going to happen right before Christmas? I guess the main reason why we think this way is because we are in this Christmas mode. We want to believe in gifts, we want to believe in wishes, and we want to believe in some Holy Spirit. But learning this information about Santa Claus, about Christmas, Jesus' birth, and church involvement, and all of that, I think, this is something that people have created through centuries, and now, with the lack of information, we're believing in some miracles, but those miracles were created for us to believe, if it makes any sense. But I still believe in miracles. I still believe in December and Christmas. I don't want to give up this idea that Christmas is something that was created for us and whatever. Like, sometimes you need to believe in some positive thoughts, and sometimes you need to believe in something just like, if it doesn't really happen for you, it's okay. It's getting the idea that something good is going to happen maybe next year, and maybe next year is going to be better than this year. And yeah, it's creating this beautiful illusion for us. And I don't want to break this illusion for you guys. I don't want to really break this illusion for me as well. I know this year, 25th of December, basically Christmas fell on Wednesday, and my podcast is going to be up on my channel only on Saturday. But still, you can learn some history, even if it's a delayed information for you guys. And this is it. That's it for today's podcast. I hope you enjoyed this. I wish you all the best in 2025. And I'm going to see you in 2025, or you're going to hear me in 2025. Love you all so much, guys. And till my next time, bye-bye.